Hi everyone! Welcome back to Easy English Practice. I'm so happy to see you here. Today's video is a little different. We're going to learn English using a special technique called shadowing. Here's how it works. First, just listen to me as I read a story. All the words will appear on the screen so you can follow along. Then, try repeating after me, copying my tone, rhythm, and pronunciation. It's totally okay if you don't get it perfect the first time. You can pause and replay the video as many times as you like. Here's what we'll do. I'll read the story slowly and clearly, and you can follow the words on the screen. Later, you'll have a chance to repeat the sentences with me. This is a great way to practice your listening, speaking, and even reading skills, all at the same time. In today's story, we'll put ourselves in the shoes of a girl who had a rather strange trip. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hi, let me tell you about a trip I took not too long ago. It was meant to be a calm weekend with 4 friends. Just the 5 of us, out in the countryside, far from the city, far from noise, just peace and quiet. But things didn't go exactly as planned. Looking back now, there were a few moments that didn't feel quite right. My 4 friends had left early in the morning. They were excited to get there before sunset, start the fire, maybe open a bottle of wine. I couldn't leave with them because of work. So the idea was simple. I'd catch up with them later that evening. The place we were staying at was a cabin in the middle of the woods, isolated, no neighbors, no signal most of the time. Just a house surrounded by trees, hidden away from everything. They sent me a couple of messages once they arrived. One said, "We're here. It's so quiet, it's kinda creepy. Bring snacks." The other was a blurry picture of the chimney with smoke coming out. I remember smiling. I thought, finally, a break from the city, just what I need. As soon as I finished work, I threw a few things into a backpack, some clothes, my flashlight, a book, snacks, and my charger. Then I grabbed my keys and left. It was around 5:30 p.m. The first part of the drive was smooth. Wide highway, barely any traffic. The sun was setting, painting everything in gold. I had my music on, an old playlist that brought back random memories. I felt good, excited even. About an hour in, I stopped for gas. The guy at the station gave me a nod as I walked in. I grabbed a coffee, stretched a bit, and got back on the road. The highway eventually turned into smaller roads. The kind with no lights, no signs, just trees on both sides, and the occasional mailbox from a house you couldn't see. Around 8 p.m., I started feeling hungry. I hadn't eaten anything since lunch, and I still had more than an hour left. That's when I saw a little roadside diner. It looked old. Flickering sign, 2 trucks parked out front, 1 light inside, but it was open, so I pulled in. Inside there were maybe 3 people, no music, just the hum of the fridge and the clink of a spoon stirring coffee. I ordered a sandwich and some fries. A woman behind the counter gave me a polite smile, then went back to reading her newspaper. I checked my phone. No signal. Again. I ate quickly, paid in cash, and stepped back outside. The air had gotten colder. Still, everything felt normal. At least it did at that point. I walked back to my car, got in, turned the key, and that's when everything started to change. The engine didn't start. I turned the key again. Nothing but a strange clicking sound. I froze for a second. Tried again. Still nothing. I looked at the dashboard. No warning lights. No signs of life at all. Just silence. I took a deep breath and looked around. The parking lot was empty now. The 2 trucks were gone. Even the diner's neon sign had gone out. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. I opened the door and stepped out, popped the hood, pretending I knew what I was doing, but of course I didn't. I just stared at the engine for a moment, hoping it would magically fix itself. It didn't. I checked my phone. Still no signal, not even a single bar. I sat back in the car, frustrated. I wasn't panicking yet, but I was starting to feel uneasy. There weren't many cars passing by that late, and I knew that the longer I waited, the harder it'd be to find help. Then, maybe 10 or 15 minutes later, headlights appeared in the distance. A truck slowed down as it got closer to me. It was an old pickup, green, with a roof rack and a couple of tools rattling in the back. It stopped beside me, the window rolled down. Inside was a man in his 50s, wearing a faded cap and a heavy jacket. He leaned slightly toward the window and asked, "Car trouble?" I nodded. "Yeah, it just won't start." He looked at my car for a second and said, "Well, not much you can do out here. I can give you a ride into town if you want, or... Where you headed?" I hesitated. For a moment, I thought about saying no. But what were my options, really? "I'm going to a cabin," I said. "Tres Pinos. It's a few miles past the forest road." He nodded slowly. "I know that road. You're still about an hour away, maybe more in the dark, but I can take you there if you're not in a rush." Something about the way he said, "if you're not in a rush," felt odd. But I thanked him, locked my car, and climbed into the passenger seat. We drove in silence for a while. The road was narrow, full of curves. The only sounds were the tires on the gravel and the occasional rattle of tools in the back. After a few minutes, he spoke. "You know," he said, "not many people go out that way anymore." I looked at him. "What do you mean?" He shrugged. "Just... people talk. Say that area's gotten strange over the years. Animals acting weird, odd things in the woods, that sort of stuff." I tried to smile. "Sounds like something out of a movie." He chuckled softly. "Yeah, but movies usually come from somewhere, don't they?" He didn't say anything after that, just kept driving. Eyes focused on the dark road ahead. I glanced out the window. No lights, no houses, just endless trees and shadows moving with the wind. I started to wonder if I should have waited by my car after all, but it was too late to go back now. We had been driving for maybe 20-30 minutes. The road had gotten even narrower. The trees were closer now, leaning over the path like they were watching us. It felt like we were deep in the middle of nowhere, and then it happened. We both heard it, a loud bump, followed by a strange crunching sound beneath the tires. The car jolted slightly. He slowed down and pulled over to the side of the road. "What was that?" I asked. "Probably just a branch or a rock," he said, already unbuckling his seatbelt. "I'll take a look." He stepped out, closed the door gently behind him, and walked around the front of the car. I stayed in my seat, waiting. At first, I heard his footsteps crunching the gravel, then nothing. I checked the side mirror, couldn't see him. I waited. 1 minute, 2, still nothing. I tapped on the window. "Hello?" No answer. I looked at my phone. Still no signal. After another minute, I grabbed my flashlight from my backpack, opened the door, and stepped outside. The cold air hit me immediately. There was no wind, just the sound of silence, thick, heavy silence. I turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the dark, but it only reached so far. I called out, "Hello? Everything okay?" No response. I circled around the car slowly. Every step on the gravel felt too loud. The woods around us looked like they could swallow anything, or anyone. And then I saw something. On the side of the car, near the back wheel, there were scratch marks. Long, thin, fresh. I crouched down, ran my fingers over them. They were too high up for a rock and too precise for tree branches. I stood there, trying to make sense of it. Then, just beyond the reach of my flashlight, something moved. I froze. It was quick, like a shadow pulling itself back into the trees. Too big to be a squirrel, too fast to be a person. I took a step back, and then a voice behind me. "What are you doing out here?" I jumped and turned around. It was him, the driver, standing there calmly, holding something in his hand, looked like a stick or a piece of wood. "You scared me," I said. "You were gone a while." He looked at the side of the car. "Yeah, there was a log stuck under the tire. Didn't want it messing up the road for anyone else." I hesitated. "What about Those scratches. He looked down. Oh, those? They've been there for months. Got 'em last winter driving through bear country. I nodded slowly. Didn't really believe him, but also didn't feel like arguing. We got back in the car. He started the engine again, and we continued down the road. I didn't ask any more questions, but the rest of the ride I couldn't stop thinking about that shape I saw in the woods and how for a few minutes he had completely disappeared into the dark. We drove in silence. The kind of silence that doesn't feel peaceful, just stretched. Neither of us spoke. Not about the scratches, not about the sound, not about the shadow in the woods. I just stared out the window, watching trees blur past in the headlights, trying to guess how much longer we had left. Eventually, the trees began to thin out. The road straightened. I saw the outline of hills in the distance, and then, finally, a mailbox. Then another, signs of people, and after a few more minutes, he slowed the car and pointed to a narrow dirt path branching off the main road. "That's your turn," he said. "Cabin should be at the end of that." I looked out. It was barely a road, just 2 faded tire tracks between tall grass, but I recognized it from the pictures my friends had sent me. "This is it," I said. "Thanks." I opened the door. The air felt colder now, and the wind was starting to pick up. Before I stepped out completely, he said, "You sure you'll be all right out here?" I nodded. "My friends should already be there." He paused, then added, "Just be careful. Not everything out here likes to be seen." I didn't answer. I just gave him a quick smile, closed the door, and watched as he drove off. His headlights slowly disappearing down the road until I was alone. Just me, my backpack, and a quiet path leading into the dark. I turned on my flashlight again, took a breath, and started walking. The dirt road was uneven. My boots sank a little with each step. Branches scratched against my jacket, and every sound, the wind, the crunch of leaves, my own breathing, felt louder than it should. After what felt like forever, I saw a light, a warm glow between the trees. I picked up the pace, then I saw it, the cabin, small, wooden, familiar. There were 2 backpacks on the porch, and the faint sound of music coming from inside. I smiled, finally. I walked up, knocked on the door, and a second later, it opened. "Hey," my friend said, pulling me into a hug. "You made it!" I stepped inside, dropped my bag. The warmth of the room hit me instantly. The smell of food, the sound of laughter, the light. It was everything I needed. And yet, as I sat down and started to tell them about the trip, I left a few things out. The scratches, the shadow, the driver's last words. I just said the car broke down and a kind stranger gave me a lift. That was enough. Because honestly, I'm not sure I want to think too hard about the rest. It was a strange night, and maybe it's easier to believe the story he told me about the log and the bears and the harmless bumps in the road, because the alternative feels a little too real. Wow, that was a little creepy, right? But hey, nothing too crazy. I hope you were able to practice your pronunciation and listening along the way. If you enjoy these kinds of stories to practice your English, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to Easy English Practice for more stories just like this. See you next time. Bye.